Thanks. Yes, we are prepared.
Good afternoon. Notice that this meeting has been posted online for at least 72 hours. Members of the Commercial and Residential Boards of Adjustment may be attending virtually in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. The staff present today are Trey Qualls, Nico Arias, Daniel Guerrero, Beth Knight, Michelle Pena, and Karen Moreno. Chair, will you please call the meeting to order?
Thank you. This is Tony Perez, and this meeting of the Board of Adjustment will now come to order. It is the 20th of March, 2024, and we welcome everyone to the Board of Adjustment for Residential Matters. This board is a volunteer citizen board appointed by the City Council. By state law, a minimum of 11 members or alternates out of 11 must be present to provide a quorum and conduct business. Today we have a quorum with sufficient members. Today's meeting is being streamed on the city's YouTube channel. Speaker registrations for cases on today's agenda were required to be submitted prior to the start of this session. Today's public hearing is being documented by eventually cable television and video conference recording, which will be available on the city's website. To achieve a timely and orderly meeting, the Board of Adjustment requests that the following procedure be respected. Please pay attention. Each case will be called in the sequence listed on the agenda unless otherwise directed by the chair. Staff will summarize cases based on the content of each request. To minimize delays, as your case is being called and you're online, ensure that you're in front of your camera or on your phone. Please remain muted until it's your time to speak. If you are here in person for your case, as your case summary is being read, please step up to the lectern immediately so we can start your hearing without delay. If you're not the applicant but will be speaking in favor or in opposition of an application, please move to the front row, be seated, and prepare to speak when called. Speakers must remember that all dialogue will be directed to the board unless you're being addressed by staff. A total of 7 minutes is allowed for speakers in favor and 7 minutes for the opposition. If there's more than one speaker present for an application, they should have already gotten together with all other like-minded speakers to determine how much time each speaker will have to ensure we stay under the time limit. If deemed necessary, if a speaker reaches their allotted time, a few extra seconds may be allowed to ensure their final point is made. To start, I will ask the applicant to present the facts of their request and the reasons why they believe the board should approve the request. If time allows and others in support are present, I will then call for them to present their information. When the applicant and others in favor complete their presentation, I will ask for any opposed to make their presentation with their 7 minutes. If there is opposition, the applicant is allowed 3 additional minutes to address issues presented by the opposition. Please note there was a rule change in 2019 regarding translation cases. When speakers require the services of a translator, all speaker times during those cases will be doubled. And we do have, I believe, 1, so prepare. After everyone has spoken, I will ask the board if they have questions for any of the speakers, and there is no time limit during this period. After the question period, I will close the public hearing, and the members of the board will be asked for discussion or a motion on the application. Once a motion is made and seconded, I will call for a vote. For this hybrid meeting format, voting by the board will require a voice vote from each member. For board members online, if their audio is out, they may respond visually. Please note that at any time during a hearing, the board may determine a closed executive session will be held to enable the Board of Adjustment to receive advice from legal staff. A brief recess will be called if this happens. If an application is denied, an applicant has 10 days to file an appeal with a court of appropriate jurisdiction. For more information on this process, or for additional information on any case on today's agenda, you may contact the Board of Adjustment after this meeting as early as tomorrow morning at 817-392-8026. Again, 817-392-8026. When not speaking, all online participants are required to be muted to avoid any potential background noise which will distract from a hearing. Everyone online or present here should now mute the audible alarms on your electronic devices to avoid unnecessary distractions and delays. To board members here and online, Please remember to keep your microphones off unless you're speaking. If online and you raise a digital hand on the screen and request to speak, once you're called upon and finish speaking, please make sure to turn the hand off. Thank you. First order of business is the approval of the minutes of the February 2024 meeting. We are open for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second? All right. Beth, please go ahead and call for a voice vote.
Yes, Ms. Holland, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Perez, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Dixon, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Brown Stearns, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Mills, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Woolman, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Powell, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Glass-Renta, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Herrera, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Dottie Munoz.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously, 11-0.
Thank you. Please go ahead and call the first case.
The first item on the agenda is a continued residential translation case, BAR 23-080, located at 4425 Hardeman Street, owned by Ernesto Dominguez Sotelo in A5 one-family zoning within the Stop 6 overlay. The variance request was to permit a second garage on a lot less than half an acre, where only one garage is allowed, and the applicant was requesting 2 garages. The applicant has requested a letter that you got in your late correspondence with requesting withdrawal of the case. He said, "I am writing this letter to let you know that I'm no longer interested in the storage. The dimensions of 30 by 30, we changed the measurements to 20 by 20 with a 6-foot door. The heights will also be the same." He is requesting withdrawal of the case, but because it's on the agenda, we do still need to have a vote on the case.
Okay, with that, we are open for a motion, and a motion can be made to a vote to approve, or we can make a vote to deny with or without prejudice, whichever is preferable.
Mr. Chairman, even though I will not be supporting it, I move to approve.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Herrera. Vote. Beth, please go ahead and call for a voice vote.
Yes, Mr. Perez, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
I rescind that. Hold on. This is a vote to approve?
Yes, sir.
No.
Okay. Mr. Jones, your vote, please, sir.
No.
Thank you. Mr. Dixon, your vote, please, sir.
No.
Thank you. Ms. Brown Stearns, your vote, please, ma'am.
No.
Thank you. Ms. Mills, your vote, please, ma'am.
No.
Thank you. Mr. Woolman, your vote, please, sir.
No.
Thank you. Ms. Powell, your vote, please, ma'am.
No.
Thank you. Ms. Glass-Renta, your vote, please, ma'am.
No.
Thank you. Ms. Herrera, your vote, please, ma'am.
No.
Thank you. Ms. Dottie Munoz, your vote, please, ma'am.
No.
Thank you. And Mr. Holland, your vote, please, or Ms. Holland, your vote, please, ma'am.
No.
Thank you. And that motion fails by a vote of 0 to 11.
Thank you, Beth. Please go ahead and call the next case.
The next item on the agenda is a continued case, BAR 24-004, located at 2745 Ryan Place Drive, owned by Claire Lawrence and presented by Mike Clark in a 7.51 family zoning. The first variance request is to permit the construction of a detached garage with habitable space that would encroach into the minimum side yard setback where 5 feet is required. The applicants are requesting 3 feet. The second variance is to permit the encroachment of the front wall of the home into the established front yard setback, where the established front yard is 38 feet and the requested setback is 32 feet 5 inches, with the final variance to permit the construction of a detached garage with habitable space taller than the main residence, where the main residence is 16 feet and the requested height for the detached garage is 26 feet.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Please go ahead and give us your name and explain to the board, and since I know this is a continuance from last month, but not all of us were here last month, so we may have to restate some of your presentation, but please explain to the board why you are requesting these variances.
Understand. My name is Michael Clark, and I'm here representing Claire Lawrence and her husband, Garrett Leak, who's here with me today. In addition, one of his neighbors, Logan May, is with us in support also. The variances, there's currently a building in the rear, as with many of these homes in the Ryan Place neighborhood. It's had some damage, so it needs to be replaced. So that's what's driving the side yard setback, is replacing it where it currently is. The front setback is really not something we would be here to speak about unless we had the other ones, but many of the buildings up and down the street have a front little not a carport, a porte cochere, a foyer, whatever, that's been enclosed, so that we simply trying to clean up things with that particular variance. It's up and down the street, and this is in keeping with the rest of the homes up and down. The third variance is if we're going to rebuild in the back, we hope to have something that's provides a little bit more square footage for their use. Whoa, I got real close to the microphone there. And so that's, the additional height is also in keeping with the number of the homes that have been upgraded and then garages as well. So we're here to answer any questions, and as I said, Garrett is here, and as is his neighbor in support.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anybody else in favor who'd like to speak at this time, or on opposition? Okay, we do have a support petition that's in our late correspondence, correct?
And I have an additional one that I brought as well.
Okay, if you'd like to present a copy, and we'll keep that, and we can display that up on the screen?
She has it, yes.
Oh, she has it, okay.
Yes, sir.
So it's coming. And seeing that we have no other speakers, we are now open for questions from the board. While we're waiting for that, I just wanted to, since this is continued and the reason for the continuance was just to get more accurate measurements, is that being reflected now in this, right now in what we're seeing here? Because let me reiterate, on variance A, on the construction, on the side yard setback, minimum's 5 feet, you're looking at 3 feet, which is just replacing it on the existing footprint, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. On the next one is the front wall of the home into the established front yard, established 38 feet, you're requesting 32 feet 5 inches.
And that is a reflection of what is actually on the ground.
Thank you. So it's still another footprint replacement. You know,
Yes,
on the
it's
same
not-
footprint.
I'm not sure how to term it. It's really more of a cleanup item, at least in my perspective anyway.
Understood. And then on the third one, permit the construction of a detached garage with habitable space taller than the main residence. The residence height 16 feet, is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay, and looking for 26 feet
That is correct.
for that new structure. Okay, thank you. Questions?
I do have a question. Do you, with it being 2 stories, right? You're rebuilding to make a second story. Is there a chance that though the pitch of the roof would cause rainwater to go into your neighbor's property? Or is there enough, are you putting gutters or, on the drawing, on the graph, it looks like it backs right up. It's like right on the fence line on the property line.
It does. Garrett, can you speak to that for me?
And sir, before you start speaking, go ahead and give us your name and how you represent the applicant.
So my name is Garrett Leak. I am the homeowner.
Oh, thank you. Welcome.
In that situation, with that area of their yard, that is why I wanted to have Mr. May here. That is his home there. That is a part of their yard that is not accessible, and where the rainwater would not have any issue, it would grade down the driveway as existing. So it wouldn't have any effect on their yard there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And sir, I'd actually like to call you up to respond to that because we do want to have that on record as you being the neighboring homeowner. So please give us your name and your address and make your statement.
So I'm Logan May.
A little closer to the microphone, please. Yeah.
So I'm Logan May. I have the property, I guess it'd be to the south of his, 2749 Ryan Place. And so that's kind of a side yard that's not utilized by me. It's in between my garage and I guess my fence. So there's really no issue or concern with, he's described every plan to me, so.
Okay, and you've had, so you've had every opportunity to look at the design and the drawings and how things will be set up, so.
Yes, sir.
You're satisfied?
Correct.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Well, we have, okay.
Wait, I have a quick question. Did you say yes or no on the gutters?
I'll answer. What I heard him say, just to clarify, was that he was in agreement with not having a gutter because that area was not an issue for him with runoff.
Okay.
I have a question. What is the reasoning for requesting the setback of 3 feet, even though, sorry, it's me,
I apologize. I could not figure out who was speaking. Sorry.
the
little
computer.
lights will show you.
So the minimum setback is 5 feet. So the fact that you're tearing down the garage would mean that you need to meet that setback. What's the reasoning for wanting to keep it at 3?
Two reasons. There's currently a foundation there, and as we shift north, left, I'm only an engineer. As we shift north, it becomes very, very difficult to get into the garage. It's one of those single lane garages, and the further west you go, you just can't make the maneuver into it.
And then the second question has to do with exceeding significantly the height of the current home. And that's because can the pitch of the roof not come down any lower, or that impacts, I assume that impacts what you're trying to construct for the second story?
That's correct, it does. The second story, I'm not the architect, so I don't know if the roof could be, the pitch of the roof could be shifted a little bit. We could certainly look into that, but I don't think it could be shifted much in order to still get a second story.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? Oh, please go ahead.
Our late correspondence has the position support for request number 1 and request number 2. It looks like you were showing something that talked about the roof height. Maybe staff, we could put that one back up for a little bit longer. Curious to know why it wasn't on the initial support, why it was only 1 and 2 on the first petition.
That was my mistake, and when we sat down and met with Mr. Guerrero and found that we needed a third request.
Great. I would like to, yes, thank you. Okay, and then the neighbors who signed this are next door, across the street. Yeah, both sides, and then across the street.
That's correct.
Okay. And is there an HOA? Can't remember. No, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, with that, gentlemen, please go ahead and take a seat in the front row. And just in case we need to recall you for anything, we'll close the public hearing and open up for discussion or a motion on the application. Mr. Jones.
I don't have a problem with this. Pretty much all these garages are built on the property lines in these neighborhoods. The only concern I have would be any windows on the upper level that would look down in a neighbor's yard. I'm okay with it looking down in this yard, but not down in any other neighbor's yards.
And it does look like the weather, the windows in most of the sides are just smaller windows up higher up, so they're not typically in plain view of neighboring properties. And apparently by the comments made by the neighboring owner, it's not a concern because it's not really a private area. Sir, if you'd like to, I'll open up the public hearing again. If you'd like to address that as a question to you as far as the window placement?
Yeah, just a clarification, there are no windows on the south side of the unit, which is the one that's closest to the property line.
Or the east side.
That would be the rear.
The rear, do I have the rear elevation? Garrett, do you know, are there windows on the rear? There is an alley behind us. So there is a, well, I use the term alley loosely. There's an alley right away with a lot of underbrush and trees and things like that.
Right.
So we were trying to be conscious of adjacent owners with regard to windows. Do you know, are there windows on the back?
So all of the windows, there would be none on the second story facing any direction that would be other than our yard itself or
okay.
out towards
Okay.
the garage. And any window placement that we did with the architect had all of that in mind, that we wouldn't want that, so we didn't want to pass that to anyone else either.
Well done. Thank you. All right, we'll close the public hearing again and continue discussion or open for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve as written.
Thank you. And do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you for that. So now as I get back to where we started, I was on the wrong, let's see. My apologies. Okay, on BAR 24-004, we have a motion to approve with a second. Beth, would you please perform a roll call vote?
Just to double check, I know that Ms. Powell made the motion, and was it Ms. Munoz?
Yes.
Jenna Munoz
Yes.
Second, great, thank you. Okay, on the motion to approve, Mr. Jones, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Dixon, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Brown Stearns, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Mills, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Woolman, your vote, please, sir.
Hey, Beth, just to be clear, this is a motion for all three at one time,
Yes, sir.
as written.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Powell, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Glass-Renta, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Herrera, your vote, please, ma'am.
No.
Thank you. Ms. Dottie Munoz, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. And Ms. Holland, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Perez, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 11 to 1.
I think 11 to 1? 10 to 1?
10 to 1.
There's 11 of us now, so thank you. All right, very good. So congratulations, and make sure you continue to check in with staff. They'll guide you right. They'll do you right. Thank you. Okay, Beth, please go ahead and call the next case.
Would you like to move BAR 24017 up to the top of the agenda?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Are they present? Okay, since they are present, so let's please do that.
BAR 24-017, located at 1017 East Luda, owned by Adrian Munoz and presented by Cooper Conger in A5 one-family zoning. The variance request is to permit a variance on a lot with less lot width than required, where the minimum lot width required is 50 feet. The applicants are requesting a lot width of 33 feet, as well as permitting a residence on a lot with less lot area than required, where the minimum lot area is 5,000 square feet, and the requested lot area is 3,333 square feet.
Thank you. Mr. Conger, are you with us?
Sir, I am.
Okay, please, for the record, go ahead and state your name and explain to the board why these variances are being requested.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Cooper Conger with New Pad Building Company. I was here last month with 2 other addresses, so it's great to see all your beautiful faces again. Similar situation to last month. We have a lot here that was deeded and sold as a remainder lot, and that's that's how it is in its current state, and less than 5,000 square feet. And so just requesting this variance so we can go get a plat and build a house on this property. Without the variance, it will be rendered unbuildable forever, pretty much.
And I believe it is that simple, so thank you, sir. Do we have
Yes, sir.
anybody else who'd like to speak in favor or in opposition? With no other speakers, we'll open it up to any questions from the board. All right, seeing no questions from the board, we'll close the public hearing and open up for discussion or a motion.
I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead, Ms. Herrera.
I'd like to make a motion to approve BAR 2417.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second from Mr. Jones. All right, so Beth, we do have a motion on BAR 24-017, and the motion is to vote to approve. Please go ahead and call for a roll call vote.
Yes. Mr. Jones, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Dixon, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Brown Stearns, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Mills, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Woolman, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Powell, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Glass-Renta, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Herrera, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Dottie Munoz, your vote, please, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Holland, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Perez, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. That passes unanimously 11-0.
Mr. Conger, congratulations. Good to see you again, and continue forward with the process. Appreciate it.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
And folks here, now you understand why we called that case so quickly, because we've had similar ones before. They're not complex. We just wanted to dispose of it and give you guys plenty of time for your cases. So Beth, please go ahead and call the next case.
The next item on the agenda is BAR 24-006, located at 2406 Winton Terrace East, owned by Stephen and Carly Tatum and presented by Perselli Pools, the A5 one-family zoning within the TCU overlay. The variance request is to permit an accessory structure being an in-ground pool that is not at least 75 feet from the front property line nor behind the rear wall of the home. The applicants are requesting a distance of 39 feet 5 inches where the minimum depth is 75 feet.
Thank you. And who do we have presenting for the applicant? Yeah. Welcome, sir. Go ahead and give us your name and why this variance is
see
being
y'all.
requested.
I'm Baron Purcelli. I've been hired by the homeowners to build a swimming pool, and so I'm with a company called Purcelli Pools. So what they're wanting to do is the neighbor's fence is 38 feet from the property line. They want to move their fence even with the neighbor and then put the pool right behind it. That's just pretty much as simple as I can put it. You have any pictures up there of this? I brought these. Okay, there we go. So the neighbor to the left of that, this fence that we're looking at here, we want to bring it forward 6.5 feet and put the pool right behind it. The fence would then be squared with the neighbor's fence.
So you're looking at moving the fence in front of the subject property?
Yeah, the existing fence that's there, moving it 6.5 feet towards the street.
Beth, wouldn't that require another variance?
So help me understand, where is the current fence on this? You can actually take your finger and press so that you can show us where it is in relationship to the house?
Current fence is, am I pressing the right thing here?
Just press and drag.
Okay.
Is it on the corner? Yeah.
So if it's on the corner and it's moved up to the front corner,
Where that red line is.
where the red line
Yes,
is,
right there. That'd be
then-
flush with the neighbors.
then that would not need a special exception or variance to move it there.
Okay, thanks for pointing that out, because, yeah, we didn't, you couldn't see from the original photo that, you know, you extend out a little bit further from the actual corner. It extends out further towards the center of the property, just under the house, so thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add, sir? Okay, do we have any other speakers in favor or in opposition? Nope, okay, no other speakers. We'll open it up to questions from the board.
I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Hi, can you tell us why the request is to be so forward into that side yard versus it being set further back into the backyard? I know there's a retaining wall or some kind of wall, but it appears
Yeah.
by the plans that you still have more room where it would be at least set back further than what you're actually requesting.
My advice to him was that location, there's a big pecan tree here in this bed, and they want to save the tree. There's a few things going on in that yard. It's pretty
Can
compacted.
you mark it on the plans so that the folks can see what you're talking about?
Start with the tree, please.
Yeah, I think the tree is like right here, and it's a massive tree. So I just told them that we're going to have to get the pool, whatever the city will allow us. I said, I think it's probably going to be that where we're proposing it now, that the pool needs to be at least that distance from that tree, just to try to, keep from, some issue with the tree or, so that's one thing. But also, this part of the property all the way down is pretty tight, and that grade changes pretty dramatically there. Well, not dramatically, but that grade changes a lot. But, those were some of the things that I recommended to the homeowner. And I said, so we'll submit it to the city and see what they say. And that's when they said, you're going to have to come before the variance committee if you want to do that. And we have a little bit of room to push the pool back if we need to. That's from where it's flush with the neighbor's fence. We can scoot the pool back. I'd say we probably have, I would say probably 3 to 4 foot in there to allow for probably some privacy bushes. That would be the main reason, kind of hide that a little bit. But I just told them that it has to do with my comfort level for building the pool there, just for the longevity of the pool.
With that grade level change, do you worry about just water runoff, something coming into the pool, even if you push it back further?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question for staff. Do we have anything that shows where 75 feet would be?
It would be double. That's where that proposed spot is 38. Let me look. We could probably compute that with.
Is it that red dot is 85?
The pool's 30. Let me see what that.
I think it would be essentially where the right-hand side of the pool is now. because that's about the same depth as the rest of the setback.
It's gonna be like right in here somewhere. It's gonna be like right in there,
Okay.
which would pretty much kill their potential to have a pool.
Very good. Any other questions?
Will the fence maintain the same look and feel and the gate be in a similar location?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, anyone else?
Hey, staff, could you pull up that picture of the front elevation that we saw a minute ago?
Oh, Dan, you might have to help him clear the screen. Thank you, sir.
Did the homeowners express the desire to have it right up to the fence? Like, you're mentioning 3 to 4 feet back. I'm wondering if
They
that's easier
do.
to
No,
support.
the homeowners were like, we don't want it. And I said, you know, you could build that in the back of it, very back, but they said, Baron, we hardly have any yard. If we put that there, we want to have the pool as far in that corner as we can.
But there will be basically just the space to walk
So I
between
think
it.
it's, they've got this big retainer wall around this tree they're trying to protect. So, I mean, it's really like honestly, it's a make or break situation. Like if they can't really put that there, they don't want, you know, that was their request. And then I just told them, well, I wouldn't be able to build it anyway. If it's going to be that close to that pecan tree, it's going to create too many problems down the road. Now, one thing on that fence we're talking about, they wanted the neighbors, that open wrought iron that's like that, we were actually going to pour a fence retainer wall style. So it's more got a pony wall with wrought iron above that. So it's a little bit nicer. It's a little bit nicer looking fence than what's there now.
And that will be part of your project?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'd be doing that.
Did you, I'm over here, sorry. No problem. Did you say you're going to be putting landscaping in front of the new pony wall fence design? Is that what you
I
said?
think they'll probably put some landscaping in front of that, but I think if you guys wanted us to push that pool back a little bit, then I think that if there was, you know, there's a lot of plumbing that goes around the pool, that it's tough to get a lot of landscaping there. So I think ultimately they're going to want some privacy on one side or the other. So if it did wind up going back, then we'd probably put those bushes in front, between the pool and the fence. But I mean, if it was my house, I'd probably want to have them on the other side. Just nothing, no kind of root systems competing with that pool plumbing.
So from your estimate, how much further back, you know, how much wiggle room do you have as far as being able to pull it back and still retain the same size pool? Because you're asking for 39
Yeah,
feet,
let
5
me look at
inches.
this. It really has to do with the deck size on the back side. It's just kind of a.
Gotcha.
Let me look at you. See? Probably say 5 feet.
Oh, lots of room.
I mean, that would say 5 foot max. Homeowners might not like that. but
No,
I
of
mean,
course not, yeah, but
you know.
yeah, we,
But I mean, I think 5 foot gives us 24 inches to run our plumbing ditches, and then another 3 feet to give some type of a option for plants to build some kind of privacy in there.
right. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Tony?
So there's nothing from the homeowners looking at this plan, I don't know what direction that is, to the left where the pool's going to butt up against that fence. There's nothing from them saying they are okay with this plan, they don't disagree, has there been any engagement by the resident?
No, there's a ton of landscaping up against that wall that
It won't
it's like
impact,
old, I mean, you know, old landscaping that doesn't look, you know, that needs to be really removed. We'll clean that up. And my guess is for the neighbors, they'd probably appreciate some of that. They'd probably appreciate that kind of being removed. And, but we haven't heard anything from the homeowner, from the neighbor.
okay, thank you.
Sorry, this is stubborn today.
Mr. Jones, after you.
The application, I think questions 3, 4, 5. It looks like it's just copied and pasted. Just curious if that is like an error on our end, your end?
I don't remember.
Well, perhaps you can answer these questions and address the statements, because it says the variance would be in harmony with the intent and purpose of the comprehensive plan and the specific chapter of the zoning ordinance. Do you agree, does this, just give us examples of how it would fit into that neighborhood?
Oh, well, I mean, we build really nice quality pools, and I don't even think the neighborhood would ever even see the pool. I mean, but it's an expensive project, and it definitely adds to the overall appeal of the house. That's for sure.
Right. The fourth one is variance will not adversely affect the health, safety, or welfare of the public.
No, unless they neglect the maintenance of it and it turns into a mosquito pit.
Right. And then the variance will not substantially and permanently injure the appropriate use of adjacent property in the same district. That's number 5. So on the sides, what's that going to look like for the neighboring property?
The neighbor has a pretty nice retainer wall between them and between each other, and it's pretty tall. So I think they'd have to get up on something to even look over and see it. So I don't know.
Thank you. Well, those are more details than what was originally given in the application,
Yeah.
so we appreciate that, because somebody copied and
I don't
pasted.
think they would, it's a nice retainer wall between the two, so I think, I can't imagine why it would be a problem for them.
Thank you. That answers those questions. Thank you for bringing those up.
Pools always give me a little unease, like children
Oh, yeah.
from the neighbors can't fall into it. The retaining wall breaks that
Not
ability.
unless they scaled the retainer
Climb
wall
up
and
and
jumped
down.
over, and it would be, it's high. I think it's like 5 foot.
And the owner's gate is on that side closest to the pool.
There's actually no gates on that side. And that's it. That wall's solid. So, I mean, the neighbor,
Oh, sorry, the front elevation has that gate, which would be.
that front gate is just a wrought iron, and it does have a gate on it with a lock.
But you're
Now, when we
talking-
put the pool in, it's going to be like self-latching, self-locking. That, I mean, those are, that's all code
I would imagine
compliant.
that'd be part of your project to ensure
yeah.
safety
Oh,
and
oh, yeah.
security
Oh,
for
yeah.
a pool, right?
But
Yeah,
you're-
it's a nice custom gate that will close, self-latch, and self-lock. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you talked about landscaping in front of the wrought irons.
That's really going to be up to them. I mean,
right.
I'm not handling the landscaping, but my recommendation was to have privacy bushes on one side or the other.
Got it.
And we
And so
could-
if we moved
could-
it back, it could be on the inside. If we leave it where it is, then it would be on the outside.
And obviously, the homeowners, they're just trying to get the pools shifted as far up as they can so they can kind of have a yard. They don't really have much playroom on the backside of the pool or towards the west. Their playroom for the pool is really north, and that's pretty much it. So they're just trying to get a little bit more playroom for the pool on the west side.
Thanks for that. Mr. Jones?
I just had a question. I think you answered it. Mr. Tyson to the south, do you have any written support from him?
Mr. Tyson to the south.
The neighbor to the south?
I don't have anything from him. Yeah. I think that the Tatums notified them. Not positive, but I told him, I said, you want to reach out to your neighbors, and they get notified, but I mean, you definitely want to reach out to them and so on and so forth.
And all those residents were notified in that area, so I don't believe we have any letters of
There's a
opposition.
lot of pools that kind of fall into this.
Right. I just want to make sure we don't have any opposition from that neighbor. So we don't, apparently. Go ahead. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, with that, go ahead and have a seat in the front row, sir, and we'll close the public hearing, open it up for discussion or a motion.
I don't have a problem approving this set written as is.
I feel good about it as well after those answers.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I kind of disagree with that, in that putting the fence at the front of the house changes the perception of the facade, and it flattens the facade. I don't know, maybe we're not supposed to talk about aesthetics, but to me, having it 6 feet, 4.47 or whatever that is, back further than where it is right now would be more desirable from the street standpoint.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Is that the fence or the pool?
The fence to be where it is currently in the pool, then back accordingly.
Yeah, because the project is to move forward the fence to accommodate the pool, and they've got about a 5-foot buffer, and extending the fence out towards the front corner of the established front corner is, if I see right, 6.45 feet. So
But is the fence compatible?
The fence request is not the agenda item today. It's only the pool.
the city has safety regulations in place for pools.
Okay, so,
They make sure.
so all conversation in regard to the fence is void.
Well, it also depends on the placement of the pool, because if we say, oh, we don't feel comfortable with the fence being out that far, then the pool would have to be pushed back over, just over 6 feet, and we're told that the applicant has about 5 feet of wiggle room.
And if we were to push the pool back, the fence by right can still be where it's drawn on the red line.
Is that correct, Beth?
Yes, that is.
So-
It can't go forward of that line, but it can move up by right.
So again, is the fence compatible?
It would have to be, but it's not our process. It's another process to ensure it is.
Okay.
So we're just focused on the placement of the pool itself. Do we have anybody else? Any other comments or a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve as written.
I'll second that.
Who's second?
Adrian.
Okay, thank you. So we do have a motion and a second on BAR 24-006. The motion is to vote to approve. Beth, please perform a roll call vote.
Yes, Mr. Dixon, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Brown Stearns, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Mills, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Wallman, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Powell, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Glass-Renta, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Herrera, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Dottie Munoz, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Holland, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Perez, your vote, please, sir.
Yes?
Thank you. Mr. Jones, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes unanimously, 11-0.
Congratulations, sir. The application was approved. Make sure to continue working with staff. Thank you for coming in. Beth, please go ahead and call the next case.
The next item on the agenda is BAR 24-011, located at 6329 Klamath Road, owned by Camila and Wade Chappell in A5 one-family zoning within the NAS JRB overlay. The variance request is to permit the construction of a detached carport that would encroach into the minimum side yard setback, where the minimum setback required is 5 feet, and the applicant is requesting a setback of 1 foot 6 inches.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and board members. How are y'all today?
Great.
Good.
Please go ahead and give us your name for the record and your address, and explain to us why you are requesting this variance.
Of course. My name is Wade Chappell. I live at 6329 Klamath Road, Fort Worth, Texas, 76116. And I am requesting a 3.5 foot into the 5 foot side yard setback for a proposed parking structure. When we purchased the home in 2014, the garage space had already been converted into a playroom. And it's just gotten a little bit too intolerable with these Texas summers and the winters to not really have any covered space for our cars. In addition to, it's very handy. Our neighbors have 4 kids, we have 2, and it's a great space for them to be outside. In some of the documents that I have attached, if you'll go to the next slide, please, that is from the street going straight back the driveway. You can see it is a narrow single entry point through the gate. If you'll go to the next picture, you'll see that the proposed 5 foot location would put the corner post of our parking structure right there, clearly very closely in the middle to where it is in this picture, for a side-by-side comparison. So to come into the property and have to swerve around that is just really not feasible. We wouldn't build the structure, or we'd have to find it some other way to a much more degree scaled for engineering to lean over. As you can see from the bottom picture, this is just to note that it is about a 6 foot height difference from lot to lot. So we don't want to be putting too much more weight on our driveway system, so we want to go below the concrete and secure it and anchor it in the ground. But to put it out simply is that we're going to drive into the dang thing if we have to build it up to code. So we'd like to move it over into the side yard a little bit further, put gutters on it, make it look nice, and it'll be an improvement to the neighborhood and to the property.
Anything else you'd like to add at this time?
Only on the building materials, we're not going to be using cedar. It'll be some form of non-combustible material.
Thank you. You probably answered a lot of questions there. So do we have any other speakers in favor or in opposition? Okay, we do have a support petition, if that could be displayed. And late correspondence, oh, it is in late correspondence? Okay. So let's check on that real quick. That's on page 3 of late correspondence. And you only have one. Is that the next door neighbor? Or?
Yes, it's the most affected neighbor property next door.
Okay, so with no other speakers, though, we're opening it up to questions from the board.
Question, it's noticing that you're not attaching it to the house by a breezeway, or can you explain that?
Frankly, I did it that way because I thought it would be less difficult for permitting to have it detached and just kind of overlapping. It will, if we're allowed to build it bigger than 400 square feet, which is what I interpreted, we would put it much closer to this area here, which is where our primary entry and exit is for the house. So that's primarily the area we want to cover between going into the house and our cars.
Do you have any, sorry, Adrian, you done? You good? Do you have any elevations, or do you have an idea? Do we have that yet of what it's going to look like?
In the packet, I believe there's a
Can we put that up?
simple rendering.
And you would put gutters on either side?
On all 4 sides.
All 4 sides, okay. Yep, thanks.
Okay. And you just want to think about this because you have a 6-foot drop, you said, from your parcel to the next one. And it looks like on one of the photos, let me get to it. Okay, I think it's page 48 on the PDF, if you want to display that on the screen, please. So how long have you been parking where you propose to put the carport? You've been parking there already?
Yes,
And for how many years?
since we've owned it, so 2014.
So no issues with settling, no shifting, no ground shifting?
No.
Okay, so you've already been using it, you just want to cover it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, seeing no other questions, sir, go ahead and have a seat in the front row anywhere.
Thank you.
And we'll close the public hearing, open it up for discussion or motion. Mr. Jones?
I don't have a problem with it, and I can support it.
Thank you, sir. I agree. Anybody else? Okay, we're open for a motion.
I make a motion to approve BAR-24-011.
I second.
All right, with that, we do have a motion on BAR 24-011. The motion is to vote to approve. Motion made and seconded. Beth, please go ahead and perform a roll call vote.
Who seconded the motion? Thank you. Yes, Ms. Brown Stearns, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Mills, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Woolman, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Powell, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Glass-Renta, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Herrera, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Dottie Munoz, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Holland, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Perez, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Dixon, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes unanimously, 11-0.
Congratulations, sir. Your application was approved. Make sure to continue working with staff. Appreciate you coming in. Beth, please go ahead and call the next case.
The next item on the agenda is BAR 24-014, located at 4829 Cedar Gap Place, owned by Justin and Jennifer Reinhardt in A5 one-family zoning. The variance request is to exceed the lot coverage allowed by right, where the lot coverage allowed by right is 50%, and the applicants are requesting 51%.
Welcome, sir.
Hello.
Hi. Go ahead and, for the record, give us your name and address and explain to us why you are requesting the variance.
Justin Reinhardt, I'm the homeowner at 14829 Cedar Gap Place. And so whenever the house was built in 2019, it was built up to like 50%, I think I call it like impervious coverage. And so that didn't give us any sort of like ability to like build anything else. The back of our house is west facing and it gets really, really hot. And so we like want to build an outdoor covered kitchen, and it's gonna go over the 50%, so.
Okay, and just, you might want to elaborate on how much square footage you're looking at to achieve, to hit that 51%?
I can't remember offhand, but it should be in the packet. I think it's around like 240 square feet. It's like just gonna come off the, yeah, so.
Okay.
So at 24 feet long and 14 feet wide, that actually equals 336 square feet.
There we go. Thank you. Just want to make sure all the facts are out there for us. Is there anything else you'd like to add, sir? Okay, it's okay. Do we have anybody else who'd like to speak in favor or in opposition? Okay, we do have some late correspondence on this one. Let's find it. So you have 14, it's page 4 of the late correspondence. And it is a support petition. You have a couple of addresses. You want to tell us where they're located?
Yeah, so the name in line 1 would be to the south of the house, and line 2 is to the north. So if you're looking at the house, it's left and right.
Yeah, so most impacted neighbors. Well done. And so since we don't have anybody in opposition, we do have support, apparently. We're now ready to go to questions from the board. Go ahead.
What's happening behind the house in this picture?
So it's a farm. It's sort of a dilapidated farm. I'm not really sure they like really do anything back there. So there's really not much going on back there at all.
If I could add to this, Karen, can you go to the previous slide, please, with the zoning? So what you see on this slide is that there is no colored zoning here, which means that this area is actually not inside our city limits. It's in the area that we have, it's called, the formal term is extraterritorial jurisdiction, or ETJ. The short way to describe it is that it's the land we have dibs to annex, but we have not yet.
Thank you.
And we don't have any input from that property owner, so.
We do not, although we do go ahead and notice them, so that we make sure that even if someone is on the other side of our city limit line, they are still affected by what goes on our side of the city limit line, so we notice them so that they receive appropriate notice.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
How close will this be to the back fence?
I think it's planned to be around 3 feet. I can't remember from the drawings. It's.
So because you did not ask for a separate variance, you can only build up to 5 feet from the property line. If you want to build it 3 feet from the property line, then you will have to continue this case and ask for a second variance.
Okay. I'm not sure if it's outside or within 5 feet off the top of my head, but
The support petition says 5 foot 10 inches from the back property line.
okay.
So they're okay, correct? Okay, so with that, we can proceed forward.
Well, I have a quick question. On the proposed floor plan, it looks like, and I'm not seeing it kind of on a different elevation, but it looks like there are, Beth, if you could go back to the image that we were on that one. On the proposed, there's like a curved area. Is that just like a connector?
Yes.
Like what is covering that?
It would not, I think, be covered by the overhanging structure. It's just like a little bit of concrete, like if I can draw here, to allow, if you're on the other side of this post,
It's just sort of like a little curve that sort of just does like this. So you can get into the outdoor kitchen area going this way and not have to come out this way all the time.
So what is covering, like what's the top, like what's on top? Or is there anything, like is there?
Oh, so currently there's not anything going to be covering that, but
Okay.
it would be partially covered by the roof like
Got it.
structure that we're building there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good question. Anybody else? Mr. Jones?
I'm okay with it if it's going to be at least 5 feet 10 inches like the support petition says from the back property line.
Okay, because you'll be held to that, so.
Yeah.
Okay, seeing no other questions, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Sir, if you go ahead and have a seat in the front row, just in case. So now we're open for discussion or a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve BAR 24-014.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Mr. Jones. Okay, we do have a motion which has been seconded on BAR 24-014. The motion is to approve. Beth, please perform a roll call vote.
Yes, Ms. Mills, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Woolman, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Powell, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Glass-Renta, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Herrera, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Dottie Munoz, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Holland, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Perez, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Dixon, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. And Ms. Brown Stearns, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes unanimously, 11-0.
Congratulations, sir. Your application was indeed approved, and make sure to continue working with staff on your project, and congratulations. Thanks for coming in. Beth, please go ahead and call the next case.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is BAR 24-015, located at 3330 Avenue K, owned by Moises Camacho and Claudia Hernandez in the A51 family zoning. The variance request is to permit the continued use of an accessory structure that exceeds the maximum allowed square footage for the lot, where the maximum square footage allowed is 200 square feet, and the applicants are requesting 400 square feet.
Good afternoon, sir.
How you doing?
Please go ahead and give us your name and your address and explain to us why you are requesting this variance.
Yeah, how you doing? My name is Moses Camacho. I'm the homeowner at 3330 Avenue K. So basically, we already had the patio there, and we decided to build a patio cover for it without a permit. We didn't think we needed a permit because it's not touching the house, it's not attached. And obviously, I guess we do, so we pulled the permit, and now we just made it bigger than, I guess, what it's allowed. Basically, that's it. You know, we want to keep it, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And you built it this large because, I mean, I know you covered it, which kind of triggered this whole process, but you built it this size because?
Well, it covers the patio, basically, the whole patio, and in the evening, you cannot be out there. It gets super hot. So that, you know, that's the reason we built it, to try to enjoy our patio.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anybody else who'd like to present in favor or in opposition? Okay, we have late correspondence on this one as well, and that is on pages 6 and 7 in late correspondence. Oh, we do? Okay, yes, ma'am. Sir, if you go ahead and have a seat in the front row, we do have an opposition speaker. Ma'am, you're welcome to step up, and you will have 7 minutes. Please go ahead and give us your name, your address, and why you are opposing this application.
Right.
And I understand that it seems like your voice projects, but go ahead and pull the microphone down so that it is appropriately aimed. Thank you, ma'am.
Every time I show up here, I scare myself because
It's just us.
I'm so loud. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. And my name is Reba Henry. I live on Avenue L, and I'm the president of the Polytechnic Heights South Neighborhood Association. Originally, we responded to this request with the statement that said we didn't have enough information and we agree with whatever the board said. We will support BA decision but do not wish to cause negative impact to the resident. However, we have had a lot of time to look through the ordinance and everything that talks about zoning and talks about variances and talks about how structures should be constructed. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to read so I don't miss anything. So
You have time, ma'am. You have time. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Polytechnic Heights South Neighborhood Association formed in February of 2023. That was just last year. There had not been an association in the area for many, 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 many years. We initially believed that we didn't have enough knowledge and should leave the decision to the board. However, after further research, we determined that there are codes and standards for a reason: orderly development. We rescind the response submitted 3/11/2024. On March 1st of this year, the association, several members, took our association area council members Martinez and Nettles on a tour of the neighborhood association area. And I've submitted a map and a description of the boundaries just moments ago. And we, during that tour of the neighborhood association community area, we pointed out hundreds of concerns across the community. There were code enforcement officers on that tour as well. And upon our return, the very next day, they began working on looking at those concerns that we turned in to them. It is seemingly common for people to just decide to build a canopy like this without a permit. If a permit is needed to build a house or enclose a garage, build a solid front yard fence, put up a carport, or again, covered patio, why not? I misread my own statement. If a permit is needed to build a house, why not to enclose a garage, build a solid front yard fence, put up a carport, or even cover the patio? People fail to understand that there are ordinances not to harass people or for uniformity, but for safety. In the case of an oversized canopy, questions about structural integrity come into play. How well is it anchored? Will it go airborne in a storm? What happens if it is loaded up with snow, ice, or rain? I think this one is a flat roof. Cities the size of Fort Worth must have codes and standards in place in order to have a safe and orderly city. Without these codes and standards, our city would be a jumble of good and bad construction. If not for codes and standards, yet continually granting variances, we may as well not have codes and standards to begin with. While we do not wish to cause undue harm to our neighbors, we oppose granting this variance and request that the structure be brought to code. Have I still got time? Okay.
You have 3 more minutes.
All right, so great. So one of the biggest things that has occurred, or disservices, I guess, is that there has been no one paying attention to our neighborhood for many years. I mean, many years. I dare to say that I probably was the last president of the Neighborhood Advisory Council when that was in play here in Fort Worth, and that hasn't been in play, the Neighborhood Advisory Councils, for many years. I'm saying all of that to say that Polytechnic is on the verge of a really big change. We're very close to downtown Fort Worth, with Wesleyan doing what it's doing to garner more students to campus. They're doing a lot of construction and building. We see that our community is prime for a lot of redevelopment. If you've had the opportunity to go through, you will see that we have many newly constructed homes in the neighborhood. That had not occurred for the longest of time. We're pleased about all of that, but we want everyone who is constructing new or renovating old, to conform to the codes of the city of Fort Worth so that our community is an orderly community, that we don't have a hodgepodge of different types of construction, different construction standards. So we are prevailing upon this board and will be submitting, much like the Central Meadowbrook Association did, a position on carports and additional or accessory structures in the neighborhood, fencing, and other things that comply with the code. We want that to be our standard for the community. Now, I know that people say we want to enjoy as a family. We want to be able to do a lot of things. It gets hot in our backyard. It gets hot in my backyard too, but to just construct something and be out of code. Construct it and know that you're in code. What we have done is to try to not come to order and have business, because we have no business, but to educate and inform our community. So our monthly meetings have been about bringing zoning. We had a zoning 101 workshop, poorly attended. We've had Keep Fort Worth Beautiful. Still, we can't get people to come out and look at it. And it's not to take away anything from anybody. It is to improve our neighborhood overall. Am I out? Okay.
10 seconds.
Well, just
thought.
let me thank you for allowing me to come before you today. And we would appreciate it if we would bring this overhang patio cover to code. That's all we're asking. Have your cover, but bring it to code.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Camacho, you have 3 minutes to respond.
When we were told to pull the permit, we did get an architect to go to our house, and he's the one that did the prints, and it should be up to code. As far as an issue with handling the weight of a snow or anything like that, it's also on the blueprints. It should be up to code, basically. Yeah. Pretty much it. Yeah. And I agree with what she's saying. We see structures being built, and a lot of them don't look safe. So when we're told we needed the permit, we make sure and call an architect to go check the structure and make sure that it was safe for everyone.
Thank you, sir. If we would, okay, so we'll go ahead and now go to questions from the board, but I do have something I'd like to ask staff to do. Go ahead and please display page 72 from the docket, that photograph of the actual structure. And then we'll go to Mr. Jones after that. Quick question to staff. So outside of the size, is this structure appropriate? Does it have the proper, because it does look like it's flat, but it might have an angle, it looks like it has drainage. Do you have any concerns about the actual structure itself?
So the slope of it and the drainage would actually be taken care of in the building permit phase, which is outside of the zoning purview that I handle. I will say, Karen, can you go to the site plan, please, ma'am? What you see on the left-hand side of the page is that it lines up with the side of the house. So it does not create any more of a side yard encroachment it doesn't create a side yard encroachment because the original house is fine. So one of the things that we try to tell our applicants is ways that they could potentially do their project by right so that they would avoid having a variance request at all. In this case, if they had attached the structure to the house, you're allowed to have as many covered porches as you want. As long as it's attached to the house, it would have been allowed by right, and they would not have needed to be here.
So if denied, it's not like they're out of luck. They could find a way to attach it to the structure of the house.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Mr. Jones.
And to that point, a question for the homeowner.
Mr. Camacho, if you'd come up.
How far from the house is it? I understand it's a matter of inches.
Yeah, it is. It is. probably about 1 inch at most.
So maybe if some trim work is applied to the house, attached to the house and the
It can be easily attached.
patio
if,
covered, then that solves that problem. Is that correct, city staff?
Yes, I mean, he'll have to modify his plans to show how it's tied into the house and structurally sound. But he can do a plan revision if he has an architect.
'cause it was built so that it wouldn't need to be attached to anything. It is anchored that way to the existing patio. So that's why we decided to do that instead of tied into the house and, maybe hurt the structure of the house.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, what I would say is instead of potentially having this being torn down or taken down or that kind of thing, is there a way to figure out how to put some flashing, right, or some trim, something to be able to, for materials, and I think it goes to the building review department, but something that you can keep it and still have it by right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it can be easily attached to the house. I just thought it was easier to not attach it.
Sure.
I
Okay.
thought it would be harder to get a permit if it was attached to the property, to the structure.
And that's why, to Ms. Henry's point, if you start attending those meetings, then you'll learn, times when you should go with staff, city staff, and planning and development to learn those things, because then you would have probably done the
Right.
project differently.
Yeah, we
So-
moved to this house 6 years ago, and, we did notice that there's not a lot of care in the neighborhood, trash everywhere, people don't clean their yards, whatever. So, we're trying to do our best to, change that. I do go on the streets, pick up trash, clean up the alleys. We have never been invited to any, any groups to try to change the situation. If not, I probably would have joined it.
Well, this is a good opportunity for you, because you have.
Yeah, no, I like everything that she said, I agree with that.
So far, so good. So we're continuing, so go ahead.
I just had a question. I can't tell from my copy. Is that an engineer seal or an architect seal on the drawings?
I think that's an architect. I just hired somebody that,
Professional. Looks like engineer to me.
on paper, I was able to read it. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's fuzzy. It's hard to tell. Distorted. Yeah, because an architect can draw whatever you want. It doesn't mean it's under, it falls under the code. So that's why it's important to run it by staff. Go ahead.
I just want to go on record, I cannot support the application, and based upon how it's built and the size, so I'm sorry.
Well, that'll be discussion after. So we're
I
still in
jumped the
question
gun.
phase. So another question?
I think I have a question for the opposition. Can I do that?
Yes, please, ma'am.
I'm not sure if you were aware that it's by right if it were attached. How do you think the home association would feel about it, knowing that just 1 inch closer to the house, it would have been within code, potentially?
Okay, and I appreciate that, and yes, I do. I learned a lot on that tour that we took about the by right stuff, which I'm not in agreement with a lot of it, but that's the city of Fort Worth's way of doing things. I've lived in this neighborhood 50 years, and 50 plus years now, and have done a lot as far as trying to bring up the neighborhood. I don't want to get into that, and I just want to answer your question. The fact is that, as I understand, the application is 386, am I correct, square feet outsized of what it should be. And the fact that it's not attached to the main structure. Yes, it's anchored in the ground, but when you look at tornadoes, when you look at high winds and what that can do to an area, to a building, you have to say that there needs to be more done to secure that. To answer your question to the point, I'd have to ask, but that was part of the issue, is that it's not attached to the building and not as structurally sound as it possibly could be had it gone through the permit process. So thank you for asking and allowing me the additional time.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. I'm glad you're here. Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay, with that, we'll close down the public hearing and open it up for discussion or a motion. Mr. Jones?
Well, I can answer one question. Mr. Chapa is a professional licensed engineer.
Thank you.
So also by right, if he attach it to the house, he can keep his structure.
Right, this is a situation where denial won't actually impact him too severely because it won't have to be a tear down. He does have a solution that should be affordable and reasonable. Anybody else? Yes, go ahead. Oh. You can ask a question of staff if it's part of the discussion, sure.
But it may have been for.
Oh, well, then I can, well, if you do have a question for one of them, I can open up the public hearing, not a problem. So,
Question for you, ma'am.
okay, we'll get her up here. So we'll open up the public hearing again, and then, yeah, make sure you're right. Yeah, you should be a little
I have it
louder.
on, thank you.
Sounds good.
My question to you is, what would be satisfactory for your group or your group that you're working with, the new group you guys just, what would be satisfactory for you guys in this particular situation?
In this particular situation, is that it meets code. And if there is the by right part of it, what needs to happen to make it by right? Anything could happen, and it could happen to the family, that they're under there and water, snow, something's up there and the whole thing drops. We just want a safe community. Does that answer the question? That's what we're trying to do, is educate. When we went on that tour and we said, here's a concern, here's what we suggest is a solution, most of the solutions were inform and educate. I'll be happy to provide a copy of what we submitted. Over 100 things that we said were concerns. We were told a lot of things were by right. Okay. But still, inform and educate. And I know that the city does this, but everybody doesn't have internet. Everybody doesn't read the inserts. And I don't know what else we can do, but it is a continual issue. And, you know, together as a community, we can talk about these things. We can provide education for those that don't know, which is what has been our focus, is to bring the right people to the table. Okay. Name and email, and you'll be on the list. We'll start sending you stuff. Here you go, you can use my pen.
I have a question for.
Okay, just to be clear and make sure I'm understanding here. So just so it's up to code, so what he would need to do is to resubmit a correction. Is that it, to bring it up to code, where it is actually attached to the house? Yeah. Then you guys would be satisfied.
I don't know what, I'm not going to say I don't know what the code states. I read a lot of stuff in the last couple of days from code, from zoning. Let me tell you, there's a lot, and I am flooded. But as we discussed, it would be, what we want to see across the neighborhood is that people don't come in and helter-skelter do things, that you pull the right permits, that you get somebody to help you build stuff instead of just throwing it up. So if it is to code and it is, zoning says, yes, we can have that in this community on this much property, then we can't fight that. That's not what we want to do. We just want stuff to be, if I got to follow the code and you got to follow the code, then everybody's got to follow the code.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and just, you know, I'll just mention this very quickly along the lines of what you're talking about too, because by right doesn't always mean without a permit as well. So you can build something by right I was able to replace my fence on the street side. I'm on a corner lot. By right, I could replace the fence. However, I went to 8 feet, I needed a permit.
Exactly.
Right? So, yeah, but always check in with staff, but not everybody's taught that.
Right, right. And that's the whole thing. How do people know?
Yeah,
I
not
mean,
even
you
our
know,
students in high school, I substitute teach sometimes, and students aren't being taught how to work with their municipalities too. So we've got to work on civics programs as well.
Well, we're all working on that education piece, and that's one of our biggest focuses is education.
All right, we have a couple more questions for,
I have a question for the applicant.
I have one for the opposition. Well, they're both up there.
okay.
Are you willing to,
Yes, ma'am.
do you believe you've received any education at this time, even from the neighborhood association president?
Yeah, I mean,
And are you willing to work with the neighborhood association?
most definitely.
Because you
yeah.
mentioned about you want to see change for us cleaning up and so on and so forth.
Definitely, I talk to the neighbors, see if there's any leaders in the community. So far, haven't heard of anybody.
But today,
There you go. Today I met one, which is interesting because some of the younger people are not, interested in bettering our community. Usually it's the older folks,
thank you. So,
Good question.
Cuidado.
I just looked on my copy of the blueprints. Mr. Chapa. He's an engineer.
Okay.
Would I have to go with an engineer or to the city if I have to attach to the house? Is there a code for that or?
And I'll ask the question of staff because you can't ask questions right now, but I will ask staff that there are relatively inexpensive solutions to attaching it, under these circumstances, to attach it to the structure of the house. Is that correct? They're not very complicated. They can guide you with some options, but then you'd have to go, of course, find somebody who can do this for you.
Correct.
And it would need to be inspected because you'd need a permit.
Yes. Mr. Chapa, as a licensed engineer, is capable of submitting the revisions for this. He does not have to hire a separate architect. As long as it is a licensed professional that turns in the plans, it's fine.
Okay, yeah.
And that way they'll work, he'll work with staff and to work on the final plan to make this legal. More questions?
The applicant.
Okay, all right. Go ahead. Right, so did you have something for Ms. Hendry?
I'll do it in discussion. We'll see
Gotcha.
if it.
Okay, sir, go ahead and have a seat again. We'll close the public hearing, go back to discussion. Go ahead.
I think I'm just looking for clarification. Everything would be in code if we approve this. And
It would have to be, yeah. If we do not approve this, then his option is to either tear it down or to modify it to comply with code, which would be
I'm
attaching
asking
it to the
opposite,
house.
though. If we approve this, it is in code, correct? If we approve
If we
this
approve it, we're approving the
variation,
size, and that's it. That's what we're here. And we're just approving the fact that it's, because it's detached, which is the reason it came to us, because it is
right,
detached.
but it's already, I think because the engineering signed off, it's already
Right,
in code.
but keep in mind, if I can interject here.
Yes, please.
We are, there's two codes for this one structure. One is the zoning code, the other one is the building code. We are only here for the zoning code. The plans exams, who issue his building permit, will handle the building code part. That is not something that we need to worry about.
Yeah, because if, for example, we deny, then the rest of the process has to happen outside of us, for the building code and those requirements and safeties that are put into place for inspections and structural integrity and all.
Yeah. My thing is, like, if it is in code on the other side, the association has said they support it being in code. And
Right.
our variance passing it passes our end of that.
Yeah, if we were past the size, Beth, and correct me if I'm wrong, if we were to pass it based on its size, it would still require a permit and to be inspected.
Well,
Is
it
that
has a
correct?
permit.
I think
Yes.
they're in the permit process, but they need a variance to complete it.
They would still need a variance to complete it as submitted, which is not in code, which is why they're asking for a variance.
And if we approve it, then the process continues. So it could potentially be in code. We just don't know because we're halfway through the process.
Right, we're just one part of the process.
Gotcha.
Right. Thanks for asking that. That's good. Anybody else? Oh, please go ahead. Anybody else?
Further
Well, ma'am, no,
discussion.
this is our discussion now, so we're past.
In discussion, the gutter looks nice on there. The engineer has signed off on it. The concrete looks fabulous. I think it looks nicer than the carport you see in the picture that's next door to it.
Right.
I definitely understand the homeowners association wanting things to be done the right way, but the applicant is in front of us, and I think that is a step to making it the right way. So I am inclined to support this variation.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
I was going to say, because this is easily correctable and probably at very little expense, I'm going to vote against this because I think it can easily be resolved.
Yeah, and we don't see a hardship here, whether it be
Correct.
self-imposed or otherwise, there's no real hardship.
Correct.
To a denial, that a denial would cause. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll jump back in.
Okay.
And I'll state just, it's really hard because I feel torn because I see both sides of it. I definitely see the side that the applicant is here and it's the step of versus just building something rogue and just never showing up and maybe never hearing from code or seeing anybody again. And so being a part of the process. So I appreciate you being here today to try to rectify what it is, but I also see the side to where I see in my parents' neighborhood too, a lot of things just happening off the cuff and asking for forgiveness after the fact. When again, this is something, if denied, it can be done by right. And then we know that it has to go through that code process to where it has to meet those structural requirements that'll probably be signed off on, like Beth said, through somebody else. So it'll check all the boxes for everybody and you potentially will still get to keep your structure. But I will say that, I appreciate you being here today. And this is part of the process to ask for variance, but it's also wanting to make sure that people go through the process, through the steps the first time. And so still discerning, but wanting to let you know where I was on it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
I just want to go ahead and say, again, yes, I appreciate you being here and coming. That means an awful lot. And that you're willing to work with code and development on this. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Powell?
I was just going to say, just for clarification, so we're going to deny it, but at the same time, with him working with code, bringing it up to standard, he will be able to keep your, I'm sorry, sir, he
sir.
will be able to keep it structured.
Right. Okay. Any other comments or a motion?
And Ms. Reeby
Yeah.
will follow up.
I just, the variance is for an extra structure, this shaded patio, which is coincidentally 1 inch away from the house. But if this were a brand new thing, not built yet, and they wanted it anywhere in this backyard that was within setbacks, it's a nice shaded patio cover with engineer sign off on structure, and I understand it isn't a hardship. It will cost money, so it is some sort of hardship, not to the level of otherwise, but like if it wasn't built yet, if everyone else in the neighborhood had been doing everything by the book, what is like a clean slate? What would that conversation be like today? Would it still be, it's only 1 inch away, so we want to deny it? Because it feels like the discussion is based on all these other extra factors that don't necessarily seem fair to this applicant.
Right, and looking at this unique situation, and sometimes we look at a hardship too. Is there a hardship now for denial of this existing structure? A little bit, a whole lot better though than a complete tear down, because sometimes we have to look at that too. Sometimes somebody's built something so over the top and we have to deny it and it costs them a lot more than it would to, in this case, attach it to the structure. So, there's going to be a little bit of a hardship because the proper process wasn't done from the beginning. So the money spent even on this hearing could have been spent on the permit and then the inspections, everything else that had to be done. So lesson learned, and even if it's a denial, he doesn't necessarily lose, at least not much.
Yeah, and Myra, and I think, to your point, I think when looking back at it, I think probably what would be added to the discussion is the size of it, right? Because it's only allotted 200 square feet. This is pushing into 400 square feet. I can't predict what we would have talked about, but definitely the fact that It's different if you're asking for 205 square feet versus you're asking for 399, especially on a lot that size. And so it's hard to say, but with them attaching it to their house, it takes us out of the conversation altogether because this is yours. So you want to build 200 and whatever square feet, that's your right. And so I feel like in some ways doing it that way takes us out in our thoughts and our opinions out of the equation.
And it does, and in this way, certainly Mr. Camacho can start working with Ms. Henry on educating the rest of the neighbors in that area, because we certainly want to encourage people to do things the right way, instead of just continuing to come to the Board of Adjustment to ask for forgiveness instead of permission ahead of time from the city. So, Mr. Jones?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve BAR-24-015.
Thank you, sir. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Powell. Beth, would you please perform a roll call vote?
Yes. On the motion to approve, your vote, please, sir. Mr. Waldman?
No.
Thank you. Ms. Powell, your vote, please, ma'am.
No.
Thank you. Ms. Glass-Renta, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Herrera, your vote, please, ma'am.
No.
Thank you. Ms. Dottie Munoz, your vote, please, ma'am.
No.
Thank you. Ms. Holland, your vote, please, ma'am.
No.
Thank you. Mr. Perez, your vote, please, sir.
No.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, your vote, please, sir.
No.
Thank you. Mr. Dixon, your vote, please, sir.
No.
Thank you. Ms. Brown Stearns, your vote, please, ma'am.
No.
Thank you. And Ms. Mills, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. By a vote of 2 to 9, the motion fails. So he will need to look at modifying your structure so that it is attached to the house so that you can have it by right.
So yes, Mr. Camacho, yes, your application was not approved. However, you do have options. So please, you can contact staff as early as tomorrow morning. Thank you, sir. Beth, please go ahead and call the next case.
Yes, the item on the agenda is BAR 24-016, located at 2222 Stanley Avenue, owned by Andrew and Lauren Tier, presented by David Price, in the A5 one-family district within the TCU overlay. The first variance request is to permit the construction of a detached garage with habitable space that would encroach into the minimum side yard setback. Where the minimum setback required is 5 feet, the applicants are requesting a setback of 1 foot 10 inches. With the second variance for the same structure to be taller than the main residence, where the main residence is 16 feet, and the applicants are requesting a height of 21 feet.
Welcome, everybody. So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and give us your names and addresses and explain to us why you are requesting these variances.
My name is David Price. I'm the contractor representing the Tiers at 2222 Stanley Avenue, and I'm here for any construction questions or setback questions or anything you guys have.
Right, thank you. And both of you, because I imagine you might be speaking, so we do need your names for the record.
Sure, I'm Andrew Tier, the homeowner at 2222 Stanley Avenue. That's my wife.
I'm Lauren Tier.
Welcome. So go ahead and explain to us why you were requesting these variances.
Sure, so we've, I guess, lived in the house a long time. We bought it in 2010. Since then, the situation has changed pretty dramatically. We've got 2 kids now.
Speak louder.
Sure, sorry. I have 2 kids now, did not have any kids before, and we work from home quite a lot now as well, so we're looking to expand, basically build some additional space on the property is the goal.
Okay, is there anything else you'd like to add at this time? Yes, please do.
Just note, what we're trying to do is go back to the exact same side setback, but bringing the home out of the utility easement. I just want to note that. And also note that Mr. and Mrs. Tier have also gone to 6 different neighbors directly behind them, each side, behind them and adjacent, and they have 6 support signatures.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Anything else you'd like to add? Okay, so with that, do we have any other speakers in favor or in opposition? Okay, not seeing any other speakers, we'll open it up to questions from the board.
Do you have any intention to rent this space out?
No, it's just for living for us, so we can work out of there.
Okay, can you also clarify how this is going to be structured? You're going to have one space, you're going to have a bathroom, you're going to have anything else, a little kitchenette, anything else? Can you explain what it's going to look like?
Yeah, it's basically just essentially just a big wide open space, a little closet, a countertop or whatever, and a bathroom, and then room for a desk and other, maybe a couch is kind of what's drawn in there currently.
To answer one question, no kitchenette. It's basically just a bar. There's no
Thank you.
There's no oven, no cooktop, nothing like that.
That helps. Appreciate that input. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I'm saying, so is this something like a multi-purpose room for the family? A rec room or something?
Correct, yeah, it would be a place where I could work out of, as well as, if the kids wanted to play in there or whatever as well.
Gotcha.
Thank you. Anybody else?
You said it's going back on the existing footprint, but pulling forward out of a utility easement on the backside?
No, it'll be new. We couldn't go on the existing footprint
Okay, you
because the Fort Worth Water said that that there was a hard no on being in that utility easement. So we
Okay.
had to come back out of that utility easement.
And making that, so it looks like it's gonna be a two-car garage, making that kind of right-hand turn to get into that second right side is not gonna be tough pulling it forward?
No, it won't be. It'll be-
Okay, there's enough room and everything? Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, guys, go ahead and have a seat in the front row. We'll close the public hearing. Open it. Oh, I'm sorry, so sorry. Mr.
Question
Jones
for
has a
the
question,
applicant.
having closed the public hearing.
Looking at the plan of the second story, I'm concerned about windows looking down in neighbors' yards and behind the property. Are there,
Yeah, so the windows are all those just high, like high windows just to let light in.
Okay.
Ones that look out on neighbors' properties, the ones that look onto our driveway are normal size windows, but the ones that look elsewhere are just the smaller, just for the light letting in.
okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, now go ahead and have a seat. We'll close the public hearing, open it up for discussion or a motion.
I don't have a problem with this. A lot of garages in the area are built on the property line, so I think this is okay the way
Yeah,
it is.
it's- yeah, it's-
And I
it's-
can support it.
It's normal for this area.
Right.
Right. Thank you, sir.
And on the late correspondence,
Oh, no.
correspondence
Yeah.
support, I think it said 6. And I believe they said adjacent or close to, 22.
Oh, there they are. Yep.
Yeah, I could also support this.
And we do not see any opposition. And they've all been notified. Anybody else? Comment?
I unfortunately will not be able to support it due to the setback and the height of the garage because of the upstairs.
Okay. I'm going to open up the public hearing briefly. I do have a question, folks, that you could answer, because we do have different styles of streets and where homes are built. So is your property level with the street? Because I know some properties in that area might be a little bit higher than the street, so you have a little bit of a rise when you go into your driveway. How things
No, it's
set?
fairly level.
It's level with it. And to point out the height question, she said, both homes next to them, one is a two-story, has a two-story garage. One is a single-story, has a two-story garage. So it would be in line with both of those.
The home behind us is also.
Yeah.
Which is likely why you got support from them. Okay. All right. Any other questions while we have it open? No? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Go ahead and have a seat, please. We're back to discussion.
82.
Can we go to page 82?
What is on that page? Because I don't have,
That's a
Photograph of the house you can see the house to the south, right there.
So the height will be in parallel with the house to the south?
Or I
If
guess
you see it, it's right. Mr. O'Hara?
That's the house to the north.
No, I'm sorry. Thank you for your correction.
I think it'll be more comparable to that because it's a two-story structure. Without specific dimensions, it's hard to say, but it will at least be
Right,
comparable to the adjacent house.
right.
You can't see it in this photo, but the house to the north also is a Tudor style with a high-pitched roof, so I think it'll be compatible with that as well.
Oh, right.
Can somebody remind me, the existing side setback is where it is right now? Because it's not going to go as far back, but is it still just as to the side as it was?
Yes, it's staying the same setback on the side as the existing structure.
Okay.
And perhaps the next, the other photo, right there. So that it is going back along the same side that you see on the
Okay.
left-hand side of the photo. It is moving closer to the house, though, because the water department will not let them build in the easement.
All right. Thank you. Do we think we should vote on these separately or discuss them separately?
I would say go ahead and discuss what you have, and then we'll see where it falls.
I can support both of these.
So are we open to a motion at this time?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to support, to approve, to approve BAR 24016 as written.
Second.
Maybe we have a second? Okay. Beth, we do have a motion on BAR 24-016. It is a motion to approve and seconded. Please perform a roll call vote.
Yes, Ms. Powell, your vote, please, ma'am. Thank you. Ms. Glass-Renta, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Herrera, your vote, please, ma'am.
No.
Thank you. Ms. Dottie Munoz, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Holland, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Perez, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Dixon, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Brown Stearns, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Mills, your vote, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Woolman, your vote, please, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes by a vote of 10-1.
Congratulations, folks. Your application was indeed approved. Make sure to continue checking in with staff on your process, and we wish you the best of luck. Thanks for coming in today. And I believe we are at the end of our docket.
We do. I do want to say extra special thanks to Ms. Powell and Ms. Brown Stearns because they have been here all day because they also substituted this morning. So thank you both ladies. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank
Very
you.
well done. Thank you. And everybody, too, for being here because your time is special. It is valuable to us and the city and the residents we serve. So with that, we are adjourned.